Professor P.
Today, we are fortunate to be joined by Ryan Merkel, otherwise known as Ryan.
Yeah, I
Man,
own the company
right?
called. That's correct. Yes, I started the company 7 years ago when I was at UW-Waukesha, and I ran the business there for a couple of years, and then I transferred over to UWM, and I ran the business there. And since then, I've been doing it full time outside of college after getting my degree from UWM, and I work full time from about March through November, and then in the off season work on getting work set up for the following year. So that's kind of what I've been doing the last 7 years. Right now, full time, and during school, I was doing as much as possible outside of school.
Mm-hmm. What did you study in school? Finance, business type stuff?
Yeah, I went to the business school at UWM, and I did marketing and supply chain management. So it was a double major there, except a lot of the credits overlapped. So it was pretty convenient to get a double major there.
So take us back a little bit, Ryan, and tell us how in the heck did this whole concept of Algae Men and this whole idea, where did that come from? Give us a little bit of the beginning, the origin story.
So, yeah, I can do that. In terms of how I got started, I used to door knock with some friends from high school for a couple other companies, and we'd get estimates going through neighborhoods. And that was only seasonal, so we were looking for something more full-time. So my dad would have me clean his roof and siding. And so from there, I kind of started to work on family members' houses and other people that we knew, and then through practice, kind of started doing it on my own. And now I've kind of been doing it on my own and with a few employees ever since.
Yeah, so it sounds like it evolved from gutter cleaning and yard work, right?
Yeah, we used to, my dad used to have me go up on his roof and spray his roof. And then that's kind of how it started with cleaning roofs. And now I clean like siding, and I'll clean gutters and concrete and decks. And we'll take on some commercial jobs as well, such as cleaning gas stations, like parking lots. I'm starting to think of other kinds of commercial jobs. We've done cemeteries. So mostly residential work, but some commercial work as well.
And it started from you just going door knocking, door to door. Is that kind of how you got the word out?
Yeah, we used to do door to door. Now we do a combination of different things to get work. We'll go. We'll do like TV commercials, radio, Facebook, Google. We'll send out some mailers, and not anymore. We don't do any more door knocking, but we used to do that. That's kind of how we started.
Okay. Nice.
So it's go on.
I was just wondering, did you always know you were going to go into business? I mean, it seems like you studied that in college, and so was that always on your mind, even when you were in high school and even there?
In high school, it wasn't necessarily on my mind, but my parents have always encouraged entrepreneurship, even when I was in high school. And my dad used to be, he used to partly own a company. And then I know some other people in my extended family own companies. So they've kind of helped me out with getting started. I have an uncle who owns a roofing company. And I have two sisters who own businesses. So, yeah, I've got some family members that own businesses, and so we kind of can bounce ideas off of each other and see what's kind of working, what's not working, and that kind of helps us out as well. It gives us something to talk about at dinner.
Yeah. So what motivated you to take it from, its early beginnings, part-time stuff, right? And all of a sudden, now it's a full-blown, full-time, well, you said it's seasonal, but for the most part, when you're in season, you're full go for the whole season, right? So it's pretty much a full-time business.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for me, it's I would say 8 to 9 months, we're actually completing work. But for me, it's more of a full-time job in terms of getting work set up for the following year, getting equipment maintained and whatnot. So in terms of going from it being a part-time business to full-time, I just kind of would run some calculations to see, what I would have to do for revenue to get it to go from a part-time to a full-time business.
Mm-hmm. So you did some research,
I did some research on it, and I knew a couple other companies throughout the country that I have been in contact with that we kind of will bounce ideas and see how profitable jobs can be, what they're doing that seems to be working, and that really seems to help when we bounce ideas off of each other. And so that's definitely a benefit to have other people in your industry that you could talk to.
What is the strangest place or thing maybe that you ever had to clean off algae?
I mean, I've cleaned like funeral homes before.
Like the building or the graves site?
The gravestone?
No, like the building of the funeral home.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I've cleaned like banks, but nothing really super out of the ordinary. Yeah, I mean, it's ironic I've gotten into the cleaning business because I really wasn't that clean of a person when I was younger in terms of like keeping my room clean and whatnot. So I'm kind of surprised looking back that I got into a cleaning business, but I can't complain. I mean, it's more focusing on where there's a need in the market and trying to meet it, and kind of going from there.
Now, do people always know that what they need is an algae? Like, do they know that it's an algae issue, or do they sometimes seek you out because your name is Algae Men?
Algae
Do they?
Man.
Yeah, I mean, I get some people, they call me about like algae in ponds if they have a pond in their backyard or in their neighborhood, and they think, just because our name is Algae Man, it's not. We don't clean algae in ponds, or yet I should say. But I know people will get a couple calls about like algae in ponds every year, and like in pools. So that's definitely something that, or like yard cleaning. I get people that call us about cleaning up like branches in their yards. That's not something that we take care of, but I can direct you to someone that can take care of that.
Okay.
I don't know. That pond algae sounds like it might be an opportunity.
I agree. It's definitely something to consider. It's a need out there.
So what are some of your ideas and strategies for creating that awareness, creating that brand recognition? Have you hired some consultants, and what have you done to really get better at that? Just organically, just learn as you go, or what?
In terms of advertising, I think one thing I've learned over the years is I keep calculations as to how well each advertisement is working out. And then whatever one seems to be working out in terms of, how many calls we're getting and emails relative to the amount of money that we spend on that, then we'll scale it up from there. So I think in the early days, I would go off of like assuming where we were getting advertising from or getting sales from. But now I go more off of, actually keeping track of it. And then whatever seems to be working, I'll go off of that. So I tried to get away from assuming as much and more of actually like keeping statistics. So I'll try to every month, at the end of every month, recalculate where we got our work from, what's being most profitable, how long jobs are taking, because just because you're doing more sales doesn't mean you're more profitable. And at the end of the day, you want to be more profitable. So that I kind of try to keep track of numbers more than I used to.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your struggles, or was there a period maybe when business was higher versus lower, or is it pretty steady throughout? Like is your business really affected by economic situations?
I would say, yeah, there's definitely been slow times throughout the business. I think a big a big thing that I've noticed is if you return messages to customers quickly, like if you can get them an estimate, if they're requesting an estimate within an hour, or they're requesting an estimate, if you can get them an estimate in an hour or two, your chances of getting that job are a lot higher than if, you don't get them an estimate for a couple days. So that's definitely something I've noticed. Um, but in terms of, slow times versus not as slow times, one thing I've definitely learned is being more organized, um, and being clear about expectations with employees and whatnot as to how long jobs will take seems to really benefit in the long run. So at the beginning, I didn't give them clear expectations of how long jobs would take, and they would take a lot longer. But now I try to give them a window as to how long a job should take.
Right.
And what's acceptable to do over the top if a customer asks, and what is not acceptable. And so I try to be clear about that as well, because I've had in the past where a 2-hour job takes all day, and then a 10-hour job takes 2 hours, and then that doesn't look good either. So I try to, the window I tell the customer, I try to have the employees meet that window as well. But I think one thing I struggled with is I tried to make sure in terms of cleaning, a lot of times cleaning isn't necessarily black and white, but it's more of, is that area up to what the customer expects? And so sometimes at the beginning, we used to get callbacks from customers saying, this isn't what I expected a few years back. And so we try to have where the customer is available to come back. So I tell the employee and the customer that we'll call you when we're about an hour from finishing up the job, so they can take a look over everything.
Yeah.
That's really helpful.
Yeah. You hit on a really good point that efficiency, when I started my business being in real estate, it was just me and a network of people that were contractors, right? So I had to be extremely efficient. And I imagine you have to be extremely efficient with and creating that culture for your workers, right? So the mindset that that always stays near and dear to me is how you do anything is how you do everything. And that's a huge reflection. And that can be the difference between getting repeat customers and they're like, what's with these yahoos? Or they're like, man, they did a great job. They were very professional, all of that, right? You want to speak to that?
Yes, I agree. I know I've heard you tell me that before, Patrick, and I know I've kind of thought about that with, in terms of, I try to be more organized, and I can tell it, it carries over from your business to your personal life, and, even budgeting your time as to how long jobs will take. I notice, like, if I tell a customer a gap that I'm going to be there, it's going to carry over into my personal life where I tell a friend when I'm going to be there, and I'm on time more or less. So I definitely think how you carry your business, it carries over into your personal life as well.
Yeah, that's true. Have you also had any issues? Now, I don't know anything about cleaning this algae, but are there certain soaps that you have to use, or is it like power washing with water? And then are there environmental concerns around that too?
So I tell customers in terms of, there are some areas we can clean with water. But in terms of using soap to break down like the dirt and mold, it definitely helps out. Now, in terms of, I know at the beginning we had some plant issues because basically what's on your siding and your roof is a plant, and so you have to be able to kill what's on your siding and roof without killing the plants around it. So I mean, we'll try to water the plants like in and throughout the process, but every now and then there are plants that do get affected, but it's pretty rare. But we tell the customer, if they're interested in covering the plants themselves, they can do that, but it's not something that we take on. I mean, some of these plants can be very large. So in terms of trying to cover a plant that can be 15 feet tall,
Yeah.
That isn't the easiest thing to do. So if they want to try to cover it, they can do that. But outside of, what was that?
Go ahead.
Outside of that, yeah, not too many environmental concerns. We'll put gutter bags on gutters when we clean roofs to collect the soap, to bring it away from the grass. Otherwise, you can have like a small patch of dead grass if you have where the soap comes out.
Okay.
But yeah, that doesn't happen too often.
Okay. I was going to ask, do you do any type of strategic marketing? What do I mean by that? For example, I used to live in town of Merton, and it was kind of like being up north because the whole subdivision was a wooded subdivision. Every house had hundreds of trees on their lots, which of course promotes a lot of mold, right? Do you look for situations where you can maybe do some mailers and do some, specific targeting?
Yeah, I've done mailers, and I mean, in terms of advertisements online, you can target certain demographics of people who have certain income levels or certain houses that are either a certain age gap or how much they're worth. You can calculate, you can send mailers to areas like that. So I have done that in the past, and that does work at times. I do notice that you got to continuously hit the same group of people over and over before they start picking up their phone.
Right.
Or start picking up their phone to call. And I've definitely noticed that. So yes, I have done that. Now, in terms of what advertisement works the best, it be kind of dependent on. I noticed a few years back, like during like the political campaigns, it seemed like we had a spike in calls. And also I've noticed like when the spring season starts, like in another month here, it definitely gets busier with people calling, versus September or November, let's say, as the season's dying down. So yeah, we're definitely will get a lot more calls in April versus November. I've noticed that.
Now, when you were starting out, what is it that helped you maybe to believe that you could be successful with this particular business? I know you said that you were kind of helping your dad out, but did you do a lot of research before you actually started your business?
I did do some research in regards to the business. In terms of having the confidence to believe in what I was doing, I think my parents have always instilled in us to take like calculated risks, and kind of to have the ability to kind of think through things on our own. I think that's an important trait to have, because one person could say this and one person could say that, but I think it's important to seek advice and then have the ability to make your own decisions after discerning what people have to say. And so I think that in terms of building the confidence to start the business and continue to try to grow it, I think a small success leads to bigger success, leads to bigger success.
Right.
And just not getting down on yourself on like the things that go wrong, because you're always going to have something that goes wrong.
Right.
And I think it's important to take a deep breath at the end of the day and kind of keep perspective on life.
Just frame it up with a positive light and say, all right, what did I learn from that debacle? Right?
Yeah, I think like some days it'll be like, I feel like I didn't get much done today, and then I'll go back and write down what everything that we got done. and it's actually a lot more than I realized. And I think something I've learned that helps me out is I'll make a list at the beginning of the day and prioritize like what I want to get done. And because it's easy to have in your mind what you want to get done, but it's easier to get distracted unless you have it written down in front of you. So I'll put it maybe on my Google Calendar or on a notepad of a list of things that I want to get done, and it's nice to check them off throughout the day.
Yeah, nice.
Well, how do you maintain your competitive edge? I mean, I don't know how many other, companies do this specific work that you do, but do you feel the pressure from other competitors or?
I think, yeah, any kind of healthy market, you're going to have competition. So I think that wishing like competition wasn't there is not going to help you out at all. But I think how I try to stay competitive is I just focus on doing the best that I can do in terms of like returning messages, in terms of being organized, in terms of being ready and transparent with customers. And then at the end of the day, I just try to have a peace knowing that I gave everything that I can. And so that kind of gives me my competitive edge because there's no use worrying about things that you can't control.
Yeah, but how's the awareness? So, in other words, from when you started and now you're in it for, what'd you say, 7 years now?
Yeah, this is going on my 7th year here.
So your 7th year, it sounds like you passed that magical year 5 number where they say, well, if you don't get to 5, you're, good luck getting to 5. And once you do, awesome. Chances are pretty good that you're going to have a business that you can, will repeat. But talk a little bit about how you noticed some of the market share. Do you track market share? Do you look at, are there competitors? I know one guy, he talks about, he's aware of all the people. He's a podcaster, and he said he's aware of all the people in his space.
I don't. I'm not aware of everyone in my space. I do know of some other competitors in my space. I mean, I will kind of, if I know of someone that's used a competitor, I may ask them like, what did you think of them and whatnot, kind of pick their brains of what they liked and what they didn't like. Because if someone's unhappy or happy, they may not say it directly to me. And so maybe talking to someone who knows a customer that I clean their house for and seeing what they thought of it can kind of help me with actually getting a true viewpoint of what the customer thought. And so in terms of going back to knowing everyone that's in my space, like I don't know that. I just more so just focus on what I can do to be the best like that my company's doing. And on the way, like if I hear what like people suggest for my company, or if I hear what competitors are doing and it's something that I need to include myself, then I'll look to throw it in myself because it may be something that I need to do and that I just haven't been doing. So I definitely try to be attentive to, I guess I don't seek out what they're doing, but if it's kind of on the way, like, and it's something I need to change, I'll work on it.
Yeah, that's so important. Well, along those same lines, do you have anything coming up, or you're challenging yourself, or are there new developments in the field that you're kind of looking into?
I would say in terms of new developments, nothing off the top of my head. I know in the previous years, I used to go to customers' houses to give a lot of estimates, but now I do a lot of it over the phone because I think that, and through email, because I think it's more important to get customers' estimates more quickly than it is to meet with them in person. And so that's a big change that I've taken this year is I rarely go out to customers' houses now, and it's more done over the internet.
So what is it?
Because
You can actually you can look at their property, or what exactly?
I'll ask them a few questions over the phone, and then I can normally give them an estimate from there. And then I'll look at it from like a satellite view or have them send me pictures. But yeah, I mean, over the last 7 years, I've dealt with thousands of houses, so I can kind of pick up, if they're saying this or that, and whatnot. Then I can kind of figure out, how long will this take? How much soap will we need, and kind of go from there. So that's something I'm definitely looking to see. How we like each month going along. How does that work out in terms of sales? Are we still getting as much work? Are we getting more work? And I believe it's more profitable to just get them it quicker versus actually going out there, because people don't necessarily, the customers I deal with, they don't necessarily care about the cost as much as being quick with things. They would rather get an estimate to them in an hour versus meet with someone in person in 2 weeks. So I'm pretty confident that's the way to go, but I'm definitely keeping an eye on it.
Okay.
Have you given any thought to franchising your business? So these things I get a lot of ideas. Most of them are pretty crummy, but every once in a while I get a good one. So I was thinking, talking about the wooded subdivisions up north, maybe either a franchise, you could franchise somebody out, probably a couple in, the Northwest it's a big area. So possibly, and there's probably tons of, algae and all kinds of stuff up in those, wooded areas, right? Have you given any thought to any of those kinds of things?
I have a little bit, but I haven't. I put a little thought into it. I actually have a buddy who does what I do down in Atlanta, and we're kind of in that business together. So that's something we've been working on. But one thing I have noticed down there relative to here is people do it all year round there. Yeah. And so it's more, I would say, competitive down there because people can do it all year round versus here, you have to be more efficient to be able to do it in 9 months versus being able to do it in 12. So with it being more competitive, the margins are smaller down there. But that's what I've noticed. But in terms of franchising throughout Wisconsin, I haven't put a lot of thought into that.
Okay.
How many employees and trucks do you currently have?
So I currently operate 3 vehicles regularly. And in terms of the peak, I have, like right now, I have 3 people that work. And then at most in the past, I've had 9 people working. So it's not a huge company, but it's enough to stay busy for me. It's enough so I can kind of keep an eye on everything that's going on. Yeah. In the past, I have had where someone has been taking the sales calls or the people that call in for estimates. But this year, right now, I'm currently taking all the estimates. And because it seems to be, it's definitely more profitable when I take the sales calls because I know exactly, I've been doing it the longest.
Yeah.
So that's what I probably plan on doing the rest of this year, and then reanalyzing it next year.
Do you have mentors or ongoing coaching, as you consider, growing and expanding and moving into other markets? Consultants, yeah.
I would say that I know other people that have bigger businesses than I do, and I enjoy picking their brains and kind of seeing what works out for them. Because a lot of times, if their business is bigger than mine, they can tell me oh, this is what we did in that situation. Because I think once you have a lot of businesses, even though you're in a different market, have faced the same problems. Um, and you kind of hit different walls on the way to growing your business. And so I think it's definitely nice to talk to someone who um, has been where I am and is looking to grow their business, and their business is bigger than mine. And it's also nice to help people out. Like my sister started her business after mine, and she sometimes brings up some problems that she faces, like a problem that we had, she was talking to me about. Like currently, most of my payments come through credit card, and she takes her payments through check, and she doesn't like, having to give the credit card the 3% of what you do in sales, the credit card. But I brought up to her how, it's there's when you collect a payment through credit card, that you can get, so the card automatically runs after you just seem to get your payments quicker when you're collecting through credit card versus a check, and there's a benefit to getting your money in quicker once you've done a service. So I brought that up to her, and even though they do take 3% off, I believe it's worth it to just go through credit card than through check, unless it's for a bigger customer. So that was kind of something that we talked about not that long ago. But yeah, it's just kind of nice to bounce around ideas in terms of what's working for her and what's not, what's working for me and what's not. And so I think it's beneficial to have people that you help out, and then it's also beneficial to be able to seek guidance from others that have been where you are.
Right, because then you can, we've talked a little bit about real estate in the past, and I was telling you some of how just going to those meetups for real estate, how beneficial and how that helped me in so many ways. It was incredible. The other thing I was going to say is when you start to talk about this and you start to collaborate and have conversations with different business owners, I'm like, how about, okay, what's 3%? $5, $10? How about raising your price to cover it, right? Now it's not a problem.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I've definitely thought about that as well, and I definitely agree that it's definitely helpful to get other people in your life that can kind of help you grow and that you can help them grow. I've also noticed, like reading books of people who have been where that I've been or am trying to go is helpful, and even kind of just writing your what's on your mind down. And sometimes when you're writing down what you're thinking, it kind of helps bring new ideas to your mind. So that's definitely something I've noticed as well. I tried to take a couple times a week at least, where I'm just kind of writing down what I'm thinking for next steps, and sometimes a new idea comes to my mind that I didn't think of before.
Yeah.
For sure. So where do you see yourself in like 5 or 10 years, even if you think that far?
I definitely am thinking about it. I don't know how much I'm content with the size of the business that is right now. Maybe I'll get it a little bigger. But I definitely am looking at getting into probably getting some more rentals here, and getting the employees that I have to help me out with that in the winter. Because I think in terms of outside of having yourself work in the season, you need to have employees that stick around. And so I think getting them to be able to work in the winter is a big benefit for them. And I think that you got to have work for them to do. And I think that's a good avenue for that. And I like the idea of reoccurring revenue, something that like my kind of work, you do a job and you don't hear from them for another 3, 4, sometimes 5 years,
Right.
versus like apartment complex, you're getting rent every month. It may not be as much, but you know what's going to be coming in every month. And so I think
are some of your employees able to help out in doing some of the maintenance work? Is that what you're thinking?
I'm kind of thinking about that in the future. Or yeah, looking at buying places and renting them up, or even possibly more so renting them, but possibly in the future flipping them. Kind of something that Patrick has done in the past. I'll probably have to pick his brain on that. Um, but yeah, I definitely think that that's definitely something I'm looking into get more aggressive with, because I think that the business that I have, I enjoy the sales part and actually communicating with the customers. Um, and so in terms of growing this business that I'm currently at, I may try to grow it a little bit, um, maybe by another 50% of what I'm doing right now. But I see myself getting some rental properties and trying to rent those out in the near future. So that's kind of what I see myself in, um, the 5 year, 10-year mark, and that's kind of where I'm at right now with that. I do enjoy the area, Wisconsin, but I spent a lot of time in Florida and Utah in the past, and I could see myself spending more time out there in the 5, 10 year marks, because I enjoy those areas.
Nice. Share with our listeners some of the issues over the years the things that really stand out in terms of, pick whatever you want, but for example, scaling, growing the company, trials and tribulations of dealing with employees and some of those issues, so that they can kind of get a peek behind the curtain and get an idea.
I think, and something that I struggled with is the expectation that you're going to be as profitable having an employee do a job as you are. I think it's you're never gonna find an employee who cares as much as you do, and that's something that you have to be willing to take on. But you got to still look at how you can be profitable with having an employee do that job.
Yeah.
So that's something that's been hard for me. Another thing that I think that's something I've struggled with is monitoring payroll hours. You know, you gotta look at, well, you may be doing this amount of sales, but if they're working, twice as many hours, are you still being as profitable as you want to be? And so you really got to keep an eye on payroll hours, even though your sales may be higher. And I think something with verifying what they're doing and checking up with people, double checking with customers to make sure they're happy with the work that's being done. So those are issues that I've had. In terms of equipment, I try to make sure it's similar with an employee in that, if you take care of them, they're going to take care of you with equipment. You got to make sure it's functioning well, because if it's not, if it breaks down on a job, it's going to be costing you more than outside of that job, because you're paying employees while they're there and you're trying to fix the equipment. So that's something I've noticed, is just making sure you're up on maintenance. Make sure like all your costs involved. I know sometimes you want to look past that stuff, but you need to look at that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you thought about maybe hiring a person? I'm thinking maybe you could get somebody, these college kids or whatever, to go out and do the follow-up with the survey and say, okay, I'm following up, and they're just gathering the information, asking the questions. What did we do well? What in your mind we could have done a better job at? Do you have any ideas on things we can do to improve our service and help you better moving forward? I think that would be huge if you're not doing it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something to consider. Like if you get an employee in the future to check up, because you can't be calling everyone up yourself.
Right.
And so I think that's pretty straightforward. Like I have a cousin who was telling me that he does that at his company. He follows up with the customers to see what they thought of the work and whatnot, because a lot of times they won't say directly to the owner how they felt, but they may communicate that to someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get that nice buffer person in there, the middle person, right?
Yeah. I was wondering too.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You were gonna say?
What was that?
You were gonna say?
No, you can go.
Oh, okay.
No, you can go.
Sorry, I didn't let you finish. No, I was wondering. So for somebody coming up, because it sounds like you had a lot of assets just in terms of your family background and family members being in business for themselves. You went to school for business and finance. I mean, is it possible to say, like, what do you think was the most important or most impactful for somebody coming up, young person, doesn't have the same assets? What do you think could really help them to be?
I think in terms of having a business, I mean, do some research, but realize, you're never going to have, you're never going to be 100%. You're never going to know everything, and you just got to be willing to take some risks, but you got to build some margin in on the way in terms of, how much money you have, in terms of, how much time you have. If you think something's going to take an hour, you got to put 2 hours in there. If you think something's going to cost, yeah, because everything takes longer, and then when you're stressed out, it's harder to think through things. So I would say do your research and build margin in for everything. Double it.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, when I worked for a commercial company, they did it all the time. They were always evaluating our time and monitoring everything. They got really efficient, and that's the same for any business, whether you're a one-person shop or whether you're a mega $1-million company. So we've got one last question for you before we wrap it up here.
Okay.
What's your 2, 5, 10? I love asking this question because sometimes people know what I'm talking about, other times they don't.
My 2, 5, 10.
Yeah,
I don't.
So what's your 2-year, your 5-year, your 10-year? What's your vision for Ryan's future? Where do you see yourself in 2, 5, and 10? And then we'll wrap it up.
In terms of
2 years.
In terms of my 2-year, I have a goal as to how much, like in terms of sales or in terms of my entire life picture.
Sorry to talk over you, but wherever you want to, in 2 years, I see myself surfing in Hawaii, once or twice a year. Or if you want to talk about business, doesn't matter.
Or personal.
Yeah, either or both.
I would say in the next 2 years, I would like to have 2 more houses outside of the one that I currently have renting out. Probably see duplexes, so 2 more duplexes rented out. And the 5-year mark, I would probably like to have another couple duplexes from there rented out. And in terms of moving to a different state, I could see myself within 5 years being married and renting out a place or living at a place up here and then having a place down in Florida or Utah where I go to maybe for a long weekend or a week a month. And I think that I can do that as long as my business is well managed and that my duplexes have good tenants in them.
Yeah. Turnkey, so you're not dealing with problems and people moving out, all that. We've dealt with all that stuff. It's a nightmare, right? You don't want to go through.
So in terms of 10 years, I have had that number in the back of my mind. I'd like to have enough money where I can have the ability to say, like, if I want to work or not within 10 years.
Right.
But I still plan on working, but being able to say, like, I have enough, so I have the flexibility to do what I want to do. But I don't know if I ever really see myself until fully retiring.
Right.
Yeah.
You always got, when you're retired, you sit around for a little bit and you're like, this is boring. Now what am I going to do? Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think I could see myself, having 10, 15 houses paid off by then, and then having the ability to say like if I want to work or not. But I still think I always will work.
Yeah. Right.
So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah, that's an excellent goal, because eventually what happens, if you're lucky or if you've planned it out right, you're on the right track there, Ryan, because what happens is in the beginning, time is so go, go, go. What does everybody say all the time? I'm busy. Yeah, no, I can't do that because I'm too busy right now. And then eventually you want to get to that point where you flip it so that you've got the money. So then time becomes a bigger asset to you than the money.
Yeah.
That's an excellent goal to strive for. All of you listeners out there, keep that in mind if you're planning on starting a business.
Time becomes an ally.
Right.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you for sharing and for your openness and allowing us to take that peek behind the curtain.
Right.
It's really interesting to see your journey and the thoughts behind the steps that you took. So
yeah. Nice. So for the people in the Milwaukee area here, how can they get a hold of you? You got websites? I know you do I always watch that sports show, guys. If you're watching the Round Table, Algae Man is, I'm like, oh, you're the Algae Man guy? Cool. So tell us where they can, website, whatever you want to do.
They can contact me at my first and last name, which is Ryan, Ryan Merkel, Merkel, at algaemen.com, ALGAE, M as in Mary, EN.com.
Okay.
So they can contact me there, and then I can reach out to them from there.
Okay. And you're on LinkedIn too. Are you on Facebook also?
I'm not on Facebook, but they can contact me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah. I can reach back out. That should be it. I'll look forward to seeing you at the gym.
You wanna give a phone number? No?
Yeah, it's 262-269-0658.
All right.
Excellent.
All right, we'll be sure to add that.
Well, yeah, there you have it. Algae Man. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, have a good rest of your day, guys.
All right, and as always, thank you in advance.
Just thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing, yeah. Just thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing, yeah. Yeah, we're thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing, yeah. We're thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing, yeah. We're thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing